Daniel from Daniel Dial-A-Tone. About a month ago, I ordered some Rebranded OPA2134s pin through from China. And anytime I purchase overstock from overseas, I always do everything I can to verify, to make sure that it's actually the legit, the actual IC. And what I mean is, hopefully you've heard by now, particularly if you are looking into purchasing, you know, some of these overstock items from China. You know, usually they're like hella cheaper than buying brand new here in the States, which for two reasons. You know, the ones that are brand new here in the States are, you know, they are verified to be, there's just no question that they are, you know, 100% genuine. And also, you know, they've been, good chance that they've been manufactured recently. So when you are looking at, you know, more expensive ICs that you can find cheaper overstock overseas, a lot of times you could be purchasing something that was actually manufactured like almost 15 years ago. And as far as I know, in general, with dealing with, you know, semiconductor parts, that isn't too big of a deal. But one would have to imagine that, you know, a device that's been sitting for that long, who knows? I don't know. If I am actually going to leave the description option open to this video. Maybe some of you have other bits of information you can add to this. But anyhow, I've also heard that sometimes it's possible that when a manufacturer of these semiconductors, sometimes they'll come up with a batch that isn't totally up to spec, and I don't know if this is true or not, but I hear that it's possible that some of these batches still make it into the market, and they usually end up into the overstock market. Now, what you really want to look for is, you know, the reason why there is an overstock market is because all the factories that assemble majority of all these devices are over in Asia, and they'll, you know, let's say, I don't know, Sony, for instance. You know, they put in their order to have something manufactured. Oftentimes they will order the parts and have them shipped to the factory, or sometimes the factory will order it. But what can sometimes happen is that at the end of the run, you could have a couple thousand of a particular part left over, and you know, it just sort of gets forgotten about. You know, a lot of times I think these factories, they end up with enough of these that they sell it, or they give like their inventory numbers to brokers that deal with overstock stuff, and if that, you know, that broker will then either actually take the stock off their hands, or they'll just facilitate the sale. But what often actually happens is what happens is someone posing as a factory has taken a batch of a cheaper version of a particular IC. So like these are these two op amps down here. These are both dual channel op amps, same pin out, everything. And what will happen is that they're basically, they're counterfeiters. They will take just a real thin veneer, and I'm just going to point out to the one that's fake, and it's this one right here. They're somehow able to just take a fine layer off, which takes off the etching or whatever method for putting the lettering and numbers on there, and then they'll coat it with some ink or paint, but I think it's ink, and then they'll do their own silk screen, and to the untrained eye it will look real similar, but when you start, if you've been working with these op amps for a long time, you start to be able to pick out, what's legit and what's not. And this one actually almost had me fooled. The only reason why is sort of, I'm not going to say it got past me, because anytime I get parts that way, I will always take as many steps as possible to validate their authenticity before using them. And often I won't use those chips and things that I'm actually upgrading for other people. I do a lot of R&D stuff, and I'll use those chips for that, because when you're doing R&D, sometimes you just want a bunch of op amps, a bunch of different ones to try out, ones that you don't care, how much they, you don't want to R&D by purchasing a whole bunch of $5 op amps, because you don't know if they're going to work or sound the way you want them to sound in that particular part of the circuit. So anyways, I wasn't really actually as familiar with the pin through, the visual characteristics of the OPA2134, and here we're getting more into the meat of this particular instance. So yeah, I got these OPA2134s, and actually even before I even purchase them, sometimes I will send a message to the seller saying, "Are you sure that these are it?" Because in quotation marks, I will test these and I will find out if they are legit or not. So if they are legit, or if they are not legit, please cancel this order. And but if you do sell them, do know that I will vet them. And so this particular person, I'm going to post screenshots of the eBay seller, and actually after the photo of the eBay seller, I'm gonna show a whole bunch of other ones that I am very certain that they are selling off-brand, not off-brand, counterfeit op amps. So the first thing I do when I get these questionable, op amps, so let's see if I can get in closer. No, I can't. It's the light. There we go. There, that's a good. You can see that. And yeah, you can see the lettering on there. So here's two examples. This one is for sure from Mauser. This is from Mauser. These two are absolutely legit. So I can do this acetone test. Basically, just dip, a Q-tip or a cotton swab into there, and you're gonna try to see if you can rub any of this off. And if it rubs off, then it was definitely rebranded. That's the term that they use for counterfeited semiconductors. It's rebranded, and they do this more for more, not just op amps, but a lot of microcontrollers, other sorts of logic chips. But they really, they actually make a decent money, because an OPA2134 here in the States, it's, $4 a piece. If you buy 100 of them, I think the price goes down a little bit. But over in China, if you have a whole bunch of, let's see, TLO 72s, you can, in fact, I think that's what this one may have been. And I'll go into that in a bit. Yeah, if you have like 10,000 TLO 72s and you rebranded them and you sell, those things are super cheap. And if you're able to make someone think that they are OPA 2134s, you can really up the price on them. And if you can sell all 10,000 of those, you made a decent amount of money. You can buy some more bat soup or whatever the hell to eat over there. So yeah, I'm gonna dip this in there. Might lose focus for a quick second, but so I'm gonna rub here, rub there. And this is acetone. This is, takes off. It'll take it. See, totally unscathed. Hardly any dirt on that Q-tip. Now, redip this. Check this shit out. Ooh, that looks nasty. Very nasty indeed. What's interesting though is that they actually used a layer of ink, just fine of enough layer of ink so that you can see a little bit of writing after. It must be whatever ink they use for the lettering, just seeps through that black ink just enough to leave a little bit of a residue. But rest assured, any manufacturer of a semiconductor has absolutely no reason to coat the top of their op amp with ink. It just doesn't happen. So so when you do this test and there's ink that comes off like that, it is absolutely counterfeit. So here's a couple more things. So I learned a few more things regarding how to actually visually, there's things to look for, and this is only in regards to the 2134 pin through. So this pin 1 indicator, you can see that that's actually like a half moon crater. It's actually indented. It's a sphere, a half sphere almost. and here it's actually flat. And then here you can see that the pin 1 indicator is perfectly centered above pin 1. Over here it's actually offset. Now if you look at what you know are pictures of these things that are actually, you know, purchased legit, yeah, you will always notice that. Now I know there was a few runs of Burr Brown op amps that weren't like this. They were completely flat, and it was a white silk screen. Not exactly sure how to tell those apart, except, you know, you'd have to, if you ever, so I would actually stay away from those. I think there were some authentically made 2134s that had an all flat top, no pin 1 indicator except for, you know, the notch up there, and it had like a more bold white silk screen. Now that is actually way more counterfeitable, you know. So if you see any of those being offered from any place overseas, don't mess with it. Of course, if you're really wanting to press your luck, you can always don't buy a whole bunch of them. Just buy 1 or 2 and get them in, and just do the acetone thing, and they will absolutely reveal the truth. And that is something I actually do with semiconductors that I'm like 80% sure that it's legit, genuine. I'll still only purchase maybe like 5 of them, and then, you know, when they're sent, you know, I'll test, and if they're good, then I will, you know, purchase a few more. So, but believe it or not, this actually used to happen to me a lot more, like a few years ago, but it hasn't happened to me in a really long time that I've actually been shipped counterfeit stuff. But now that it has happened this time, I really want to point it out, because so this person who's selling these on eBay, they're still selling them. I was able to force a refund. I took it up with eBay, and they actually forced a refund. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, and yeah, these folks that I bought these from, they're like, oh, just send them back and we'll refund you. Like, no, I'm not gonna send them back to you so that you can put them back into your stock and sell them to some other person who really doesn't know to check for these, and they're gonna use them in their device thinking that they sound great, but they don't sound great. And that's, you know, yeah, because the, you know, TLO 72, it's not the worst sounding op amp, it's not the best either, but the 2134s, you know, they sound a very particular way, and they sound really awesome when you want that 2134 sound. You're not going to get it from this thing. Absolutely not. It'll still function, and that's the funny thing. You're like, oh, but it still works, right? And be like, that's not the point. So yeah. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to I'm going to post the screenshots of some op amps that I'm seeing really sure are not legit. So I'm hoping that enough people will watch this video and link it to other people, at least for the OPA2134 market. I really hope that a lot of people see this and get wise to it. I hope these counterfeiters end up having to sit on these counterfeit op amps for the rest of our lives and know that, oh yeah, this isn't actually profitable for us. It's actually more profitable to sell the real thing, because people will actually buy those. Yeah. Okay. That's it.